A glacier is not just frozen rock, it's an illusion of safety. One moment you're walking on what looks like solid ground, the next, the earth disappears beneath you, and you're swallowed whole by ice. Hidden beneath the snow are cracks wide enough to swallow a bus and deep enough that sunlight never touches the bottom. For climbers, they are the most silent and merciless killers on the mountain. These aren't legends or ghost stories. They are real. Climbers talking 1 second and vanishing the next. Rescue teams following faint beacons only to discover that the mountain has already taken what it wanted. To stand on a glacier is to walk on thin glass stretched over an abyss. And one wrong step can change everything. They say the mountains don't forgive mistakes. And when it comes to crevasses, that truth is absolute. Reinhold Messner once said, "Mountains aren't fair or unfair, they're just dangerous." Out here, skill, strength, even experience can mean nothing if you place your weight on the wrong patch of snow. The stories you're about to hear are not about climbers chasing glory. They're about people, experienced guides, world-class mountaineers, and scientists who found themselves staring into the cold, blue heart of a glacier. Some fought their way back to life, others never returned. Together, their voices tell us what it truly means to step onto ice that can kill without warning. On a cold October morning in 2020, Austin Mischler set out alone on Oregon's Mount Hood. Just 27 years old, he wasn't a reckless beginner. He was an experienced wilderness guide who had spent years navigating mountains and glaciers. But on this climb, he chose solitude. No rope team, no partner, just himself and the mountain's north side, where the Elliott Glacier fractures into a maze of ice falls and crevasses. When his family didn't hear from him, they reported him missing. Searchers spotted his tent high on the snow dome, but Austin wasn't inside. Instead, his satellite beacon sat pinging from the same frozen coordinates over and over, like a heartbeat trapped beneath the glacier. It was there that rescue teams finally found him, deep inside a crevasse, his body lying silent in the darkness of the ice. Hey, real quick, when was the last time you did something unforgettable? Viator makes it crazy easy to book real adventures. Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro, Tokyo, everything. I actually used it myself, and no joke, best decision I've ever made. Don't just watch other people live life, go live yours. Links below. The recovery was long and brutal. Teams from Portland Mountain Rescue and the Hood River Crag Rats worked for days in treacherous conditions, lowering themselves into the fractured glacier to bring him out. Austin's fall was likely from high on Anderson Rock, hundreds of feet above where he was found. Alone, unroped, he never had a chance to arrest the fall. What makes his story cut even deeper is the detail that his beacon had been transmitting continuously since the accident. The signal was there all along, proof of where he was, but it wasn't connected to rescuers in time. By the time they traced it, Austin was already gone. His death was not just a tragedy of the mountain, but a reminder of how fragile survival is when technology, communication, and timing don't align. August 2019. The summit of Mount Rainier glowed in the early morning light as Graham Parrington and his teammates made their descent. They were tired but elated. After hours of climbing, they had stood on the top of the most glaciated peak in the lower 48 states. Camp was in sight, victory close enough to taste. And then, in a single instant, the mountain reminded them how quickly joy can collapse into terror. The snow beneath Graham's boots gave way. He plummeted downward, crashing through thin layers of melting snow until the world turned blue. He landed hard, wedged deep inside a crevasse. For a brief, horrifying moment, he thought his story was over. "I knew falling into a crevasse could be deadly," he later recalled, "and I was falling in a crevasse." He was soaked, freezing, and dangling in the icy void. The glacier walls around him wept with meltwater, turning the crevasse into what he described as an ice shower. Above, his teammates scrambled to secure the rope, their voices echoing faintly down to him. With their help and the assistance of another climbing group that stumbled upon the scene, Graham began the grueling process of climbing out. It took him 45 exhausting minutes, inching upward, with friction knots and sheer determination. Every slip could have been fatal, but training and calm thinking kept him alive. When he finally pulled himself over the lip, drenched and shivering, the enormity of what had just happened sank in. He was alive, barely scratched, though shaken to the core. "It's been an interesting reset," he said afterward, "a reminder to value the people in my life." In 2014, high in the Himalayas, American scientist and climber John All was working near Mount Himlung, collecting snow samples for climate research. It was supposed to be a short, uneventful walk from his tent, a chance to take a few measurements before the monsoon arrived. The sky was clear, the morning calm. Then, without warning, the ground collapsed beneath him. He plunged 70 feet into the glacier. Ice walls slammed against his body as he ricocheted downward. An axe tore his shoulder out of its socket. Ribs cracked, bones snapped. When he finally stopped, he was lying broken on a block of ice suspended above an endless black abyss. He could barely breathe. Blood filled his mouth, and the temperature dropped with every passing minute. Alone and crippled, he realized he had hours, maybe less, to save himself. With one arm useless and every breath sending fire through his shattered ribs, John faced the impossible: climb out or die where he lay. Inch by inch, he kicked his crampons into the brittle ice, swinging his remaining axe while filming himself on a small camera, partly to document, partly to stay sane. At one point, he had to cross a stretch of bare ice hanging above the void. Halfway across, he looked down and imagined slipping into the endless blue darkness. 6 agonizing hours later, he clawed his way to the surface. But his fight wasn't over. He still had to crawl back to his tent 100 yards that felt like a marathon and call for help. By the time a helicopter carried him to safety, he had broken 15 bones. Reflecting later, he said, "It was the thought of my mother never knowing what happened to me that kept me climbing. It was human willpower, raw and desperate, that had saved him where gear and training could not." May 1992. Denali, the tallest mountain in North America, was shrouded in storms when one of the greatest alpinists of his generation took clients down its treacherous south buttress. His name was Terry Muggs Stump, a man whose climbs had redefined boldness in the Alaska Range. He had pioneered routes so audacious that even legends like Conrad Anker called him a mentor. To climb with Muggs was to witness mastery, but that mastery could not shield him from the mountain's hidden dangers. As he guided 2 clients down the glacier, the snow beneath him fractured. In an instant, he was gone, swallowed by a crevasse. Searchers later confirmed what no one wanted to believe. One of America's most visionary climbers had perished, not on a daring new route, but on the descent, where vigilance is often dulled by exhaustion. His death sent shockwaves through the climbing world. Muggs wasn't just a climber, he was a spirit of pure alpinism, someone who believed in style over glory, in climbing not to conquer, but to connect. Conrad Anker, who later honored him in the film Meru, said simply, "Muggs was the purest climber I ever knew." Out of his loss came a legacy. The Muggs Stump Award was created to support bold alpine expeditions, ensuring that his passion and philosophy lived on through future generations, yet the irony lingered. A man who had scaled the most daunting walls of Alaska, who had defied storms and vertical ice, was claimed by one of the simplest, most unassuming dangers of the mountains, a hidden crevasse awaiting silently beneath the snow. In May 2006, Australian mountaineer Sue Fear stood on the summit of Manaslu, the 8th highest mountain in the world. At 43, she had already achieved what few ever dream of: the 7 summits, Everest from the north side, and 5 peaks over 8,000 meters. She was more than a climber. She was a role model, an ambassador for charities, a woman who inspired others to chase their limits. But the descent from Manaslu would be her last. At around 7,400 meters, as her team made their way down through the fractured glacier, Sue fell into a crevasse. The mountain sealed her fate in silence. Her body was never recovered, honoring her own wish that if she were to die on a peak, she would remain there. For her companions, it was a devastating reminder that on the world's highest mountains, danger waits not only on the climb up, but just as often on the way down. Sue's death left a lasting mark, not only in Australia, but across the global climbing community. She had been awarded the Order of Australia Medal just a year before, recognized both for her mountaineering and her humanitarian work. Schools named houses after her, eye clinics in Nepal carried her name, and countless young adventurers pointed to her as proof that courage had no boundaries. Her biography, Fear No Boundary, captured the essence of her life: driven, compassionate, unafraid of risk. But perhaps her greatest legacy is the message she left behind: that adventure is not about conquering mountains, but about living fully, with purpose, even in the face of fear. On Manaslu, the mountain she loved, Sue Fear became part of the landscape she had devoted her life to exploring. Crevasses are among the most deceptive dangers in mountaineering. From the surface, they often appear invisible, hidden beneath thin snow bridges that can support dozens of footsteps before suddenly collapsing. They can be narrow slits or yawning abysses, some plunging hundreds of feet into blue darkness where no light reaches. For climbers, they represent not just physical danger but psychological terror, the knowledge that every step could be the one that gives way. Survival often depends on preparation, rope teams that can arrest a fall, training in self-rescue techniques, and the discipline to respect the glacier's unpredictability. Yet even with the best equipment, crevasses demand humility. As one climber once said, "On rock you can see your enemy, on glaciers you walk on faith." For those who've fallen in and lived to tell the tale, the experience is described as stepping into another world, a place of silence, blue light, and crushing cold. For others, like Austin Mischler, Mug Stump, and Sue Fair, the crevasse became their final resting place. These stories remind us that the line between survival and tragedy is razor thin. Alpinist Anatoly Bukriv once said, "Mountains are not stadiums where I satisfy my ambition. They are cathedrals where I practice my religion." In that spirit, every crevasse fall is not just a warning, but a testament to the price of walking in these frozen cathedrals. The mountain is not conquered, it is only respected, endured, and sometimes survived. When we look back on these stories, they aren't just about accidents, they are about people, dreamers, explorers, parents, mentors who chase something beyond the ordinary. A guide alone on Mount Hood, a father fighting his way out of an icy tomb on Rainier, a scientist dragging his broken body back to camp on Himlung, a legend lost on Denali, and a trailblazer who became part of Manaslu forever. Each crevasse fall is a reminder that adventure is never guaranteed safe. But it's also proof of the human spirit, the will to fight, to climb, to keep moving, even when the mountain tries to swallow you whole. The ice may close over their footsteps, but their stories echo louder than the silence of the glaciers.